Glengoyne Distillery stands about 20 minutes outside Glasgow. In spite of being so close to Scotland's main industrial capital, it stands in wonderful Highland countryside. Indeed, the road behind me marks the old Highland Line. This was an abstract line drawn diagonally across Scotland in the 1780s, distinguishing distilleries above and below the Highlands and the Lowlands, where different tax regimes pertain to each side. Glengoyne is curious because the distillery itself is above the Highland Line, while the warehouses are below the Highland Line. Once upon a time, I believe the whisky itself was classified as a lowland. We'll find out more about this when we speak to the distillery manager. As I mentioned, Glengoyne Distillery stands right on the edge of the Highlands. Behind me is the Blaine Valley, which is in the Lowlands, and you can see that the distillery's warehouses are over there. I'm standing above the Highland Line. I have a list from a blender in the early 70s which describes Glengoyne as a lowland malt. Today it's described as a Highland malt. Indeed, I've seen bottles from the 1920s and 30s which describes it as a Highland malt. In a moment we'll taste some Glengoyne and find out whether it is truly a lowland or a Highland. I'm with Robbie Hughes, manager at Glengoyne Distillery, and behind us is the water source for the distillery, which comes, I think, from the Campsie Fells.
That's right. Yep, right down from the hills.
What sort of water is it?
It's a soft water, very clean. It's there's no peat. There's no peat on the hills here. So what we've got is a water that has a very neutral influence on the spirit. Because we're looking to produce a spirit that's the real taste of malt. That's our tagline here. We don't want anything in the process that'll take away from that. So we don't want any influence in the water that'll add any character to it, apart from the character that we're introducing in the process itself. So this water, we need millions of litres of it every week, and we want it to have as little influence on the actual character of the whisky as possible. Some distilleries are different. They might want peat influence.
Yeah.
We don't have any peat on that hill. We have plenty of sheep doing what they need to do up there. That'll have some influence, but we get rid of that very quickly. So no, lots and lots of cold, clean, fresh water.
And this supplies both your cooling water and your production water?
This supplies everything for the site.
Where we were just now was the Lade, which runs down into the dam, Robbie.
That's right.
And then this behind us here is the overspill from the dam.
Yep, this is now called our Cundy, which goes right underneath the distillery. And this overspill, as you can see, it's nice, clean, cold water. And somebody reckons we get about 50 litres a second falling on the distillery. Rain over the year every second. And when you look at this, I think he was under-exaggerating it. You know, if you stand under there, you'd soon know what 50 litres feels like. You know, it's more like 100.
Yeah. So we're lucky to have a good day today.
We're very lucky to have a good day today. Yeah.
Robbie, do you think that water makes much contribution to the flavour of the finished product?
I think it has to, really. It also depends mainly on the location of the distillery. If you've got a distillery that's getting its water running down a hill that's covered in peat, then it's going to draw the qualities of that peat, and that's going to come through into your final spirit. If you're at a distillery, as we are today at Glengoyne, we've got a hill which is 1,200 feet behind you, and there's no peat at all on that hill. So the water which comes down to us has very neutral flavours. It's very clean, it's very fresh, and it's very cold, and that's what we're looking for at Glengoyne. What we're looking for here is something that's going to have very little impact to the final spirit, because what we're about at Glengoyne is the real taste of malt. We want our barley to come through the flavours. We don't want the water to be one of the major influences. So it's very neutral to us. We just need a lot of cold water here at Glengoyne.
Highland or lowland, flavour begins with the raw materials, water and barley. Now, what's your barley specification?
We use about 85% Optic, which is the barley of choice at the moment in the industry. And the remaining 15% is Golden Promise. And Golden Promise was the barley of choice back in 1968 when we first started using it.
68 you started
68. It was the bee's knees back then.
Yeah, it was.
You know, it was the Ferrari of the industry.
Yeah.
And then up until around about 1980, other barleys got developed and kind of left Golden Promise behind in the background. But us being the way we are at Glengoyne, we've just kept it going, you know, for another 26 years, beyond when everybody else has just kind of dropped it off. Because at Glengoyne we feel the barley has a big influence on the final product.
Yeah.
And Golden Promise has a huge amount of that.
Golden Promise is expensive. It gives you lower yield.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make any commercial sense to use it.
You sound like my accountant. He says exactly the same. Why are we using it?
Yeah.
You know, so you got to persuade them. Well, we're paying 15% more for a Golden Promise
for less
compared to
yield.
Optic, for 5% less yield. So where's the argument? The argument has got to be in quality, in flavour. You know, you can be mercenary if you want about your product, and you can go for the cheapest spec every time. But at Glengoyne, we're just a small distillery. We could never compete in the big market for cheapness, but we can compete in the marketplace for quality. And since 1968, we've recognised Golden Promise is the malt for us. It always adds that wee edge that we can't get from anything else. And we're putting our money where our mouth is. If we didn't believe so, why pay it? So we're putting our money where our mouth is and paying this extra premium for the less yield to get this quality.
And even at that, even if you're only using 15%, you still reckon it contributes.
It's in there. Yeah, it's in there. You take it out, you notice it's a noticeable difference. Put it back in, you've got it back again. We've kept going. You know, we've signed a contract. Well, my boss signed a contract last month, 2007, and we do it every year. I mean, it's a rolling contract, and we've kept doing that for the last 40 years, and we're going to continue for the foreseeable future.
And you buy in the malt from Simpsons?
Malt comes from Simpsons. They're a maltster just in the borders between England and Scotland there.
And most of their barley will be grown in the borders?
No, the barley is grown in Fife.
In Fife?
Yeah, it's grown in Fife on the east coast of Scotland. So it's 100% Scottish barley.
Yeah, good. And it comes in below us here, and it's milled down below, and then it comes into this contraption.
It comes into this contraption first.
Ah, right, screened here.
This is a screen. What we're doing here, we're removing the dust.
And stones.
Stones, dust, all gets put to one side. We're grading the barley. This barley is about 2.2 mils in size. We'll drop down into the mill. Everything else is just screened off, and then a local farmer takes it away and feeds it to his cattle. So this is just the start of the process for us.
Do you ever have any stones? There used to be a high instance of fires caused by sparks in the mill if it wasn't screened.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep, that's right. That's why you have your stone, and we also have a magnet in there as well.
Oh, for
just so any bits of metal, because you can have an explosion from that. So it's all removed, taken off left stage, and all the good stuff goes down and gets ground.
Down to be ground up.
3.72 tonne at a time.